Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. All USDA prime, not choice, all prime. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner at 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, a big welcome into everybody listening in on radio and watching on television. Everybody streaming, thanks for joining us. Also on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Thanks for joining us there as well. You know, folks, there's a World Series that's been really tore up and beat up by the media on one side. And it just seems that, look, when you've got a couple of teams playing one another that the media wanted there in the first place and the advertisers wanted it there, everybody seems to have wanted it there except me, of course. When I look at this matchup, and I said, all right, well, here you have the Dodgers in the number 2 market in America, the Yankees in the number 1 media market in America, and just because one team gets up on the other one, the media just throws the team down big to the wolves. And I'm not going to name any names here, but I have to tell you, it is an abomination of what the media has done to the New York Yankees. Is completely unfair. And sure, they say, well, you know, Aaron Judge had a problem here, Aaron Judge had a problem there. Whatever. This is Aaron Judge's first time in the World Series, period. And then you have these alleged personalities on pick your favorite or least favorite show on television and or radio or their blasted podcast. And they say, well, you know, they are who they thought we were and all this other garbage. And the people that say those words, you know who you are and you know who we're referring to. But nonetheless, the opinions that they have are like the backside of everybody. Everybody's got one. But the problem is they smear the New York Yankees in the media. Look, I have no positive or negatives or anything. I'm neutral, completely neutral on the New York Yankees. I don't dislike them. I don't like them. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just one person, just like everybody else listening individually here. Whether they win the World Series, lose the World Series, they get swept, they don't get swept, none of that stuff matters to me. But what matters is fairness and responsible reporting in the media. Now, editorials are editorials, and everybody's entitled to their opinion on the editorial side. But I just believe that some of these parties are trying to make a bigger name for themselves at the expense of this team or that team. In this case, it would be, of course, well, this is what went wrong with the New York Yankees. I get sick and tired of hearing that stuff. So instead of being neutral, as they probably should, but when they're injecting their opinion, they need to be able to argue against themselves too. You can't just argue for your position. You have to argue against your position as well. We see this in all the sports. We see it in business. We see it in politics. It's everywhere. And for everybody to gang up on one side and say, hey, we're going to celebrate this side and we're going to destroy the other side. There's a guy over in Los Angeles that does this. He works with one of the major newspapers over there. And he does this constantly when the home team doesn't win. And I just cannot stomach this clown. Well, this is what's going on with the media and the New York Yankees. I mean, look, whether they win or lose, who cares? Enjoy the series. This is the Titanic matchup they wanted. But it doesn't mean that because one team failed and the other team didn't fail, doesn't mean that one is really lesser when it comes to personnel. Hey, this is a matter of who's getting hot. The timing is right. Certain players have certain stories. And, people aren't complaining about Ohtani when Ohtani slid into second base and he slid wrong. There are mechanics in sliding into bases, and people aren't saying, well, Shohei Ohtani, he separated his shoulder or hurt his shoulder or whatever the heck it was because he slid wrong. No, they're saying, oh, poor him, poor him. And meanwhile, on the other side, people say, well, Aaron Judge was in the worst slump of his life and all this other crap. Well, he was hitting just 0.83 in the World Series. Who cares? At least he's playing, whereas Ohtani came back out, for example, in Game 3 of the World Series and was completely ineffective. He couldn't swing. You saw him grimace every time he swung the bat. And in my opinion, he had no business being out there in Game 3, let alone Game 4 and so forth. So, people can complain all they want. But if they look at the game, if they know the game, and here David Ortiz is saying, well, after Game 3, the body language of the New York Yankees is awful. He's calling out the Yankees' body language. Who the hell are you, buddy? Last I checked, there was some question as to why people were questioning you about performance-enhancing drugs, and somehow you made it into the Hall of Fame. So I don't know, David Ortiz. Why are you calling people out when you failed to look in the mirror or ask the people, why are you trying to finger point at me saying that I took performance-enhancing drugs? Of course, this is my opinion, but then again, that is what was out there. And so if he took performance-enhancing drugs and he got into the Hall, well, why can't Barry Bonds? And Barry Bonds has the same questions surrounding him. And the sad part about it is Barry Bonds was already a 5-tool player before all the questions circulated him. This guy had all the right everything. And it's too bad. It's too bad because Barry should be in the Hall. And all these questions that surround him should be the same questions that surround other people as well. And people were questioning David Ortiz. I don't know. I don't know the guy personally. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know whether he took or did not take any performance-enhancing drugs. But there's been a lot of discussion on it. And if that's the case, why is this guy questioning anybody else? Well, he's questioning the Yankees' body language, and he's promoting T-shirts on TV and all this other crap. Why does he get to get away with all this stuff? Oh, it's Big Papi. What kind of crap is that? Listen, Big Papi and all you other people, Stephen A. Smith, whatever, leave your opinions on the New York Yankees to where they're at in your head. No need to spill all that negativity on everybody else. Same thing with Rosenthal and this one and that one. Rosenthal talking about, well, they are who we thought they were, kind of crap. Well, look, last time I checked, I don't think Rosenthal was on a baseball field. I don't know. What do you think? Right? So ultimately, when you have these people opening their mouths, well, okay, they say, well, they're paid to give their opinions. Yeah, but their opinions are like what? Everybody else's backside. And just because they're on television or in the newspapers or whatever it is, social media, this, that, and the other, doesn't mean that their opinion is any more relevant than yours, the listener, or mine, the broadcaster, right now. Their opinions don't matter, just like your opinion doesn't matter. Because you know what matters is performance on the field and how these people carry themselves off the fields as human beings. And, honestly, the greatest story of the World Series, without question, is Freddie Freeman. And Freddie Freeman, with all of his trials and tribulations, and Freddie somehow playing through the pain, doing what he's doing, hitting home runs, doing everything he could for the LA Dodgers. Freddie's one of those guys that whether you're on the team, against the team, whatever, you root for the guy because he's just one of those guys that you got to root for. And I have to tell you that there are some people that I just called out that not everybody was rooting for. And, when we listened to Alex Rodriguez on television for the World Series pregame, postgame, whatnot, Alex has some good input, but it almost seems as though, and this is my opinion, it almost seems as though Alex's opinion is based off of maybe his personal, I don't know, maybe he seems a little bit insecure, in my opinion. Seems a little insecure. Maybe he likes the attention. Maybe he's not getting enough attention. I don't know. But the big boss on that stage, in my opinion, again, is Derek Jeter. And I just kind of scratch my head. I know Major League Baseball, they certainly want him on there. And I know the Yankees want him on there. And frankly, I believe the Dodgers want him on there too, because Derek's one of those guys. They say, well, they call him the captain. Well, he's one of those guys that he is the captain. And he's the captain of the TV set. And I like to see Derek on there because he gives relevant information, relevant opinion. It's justified. And remember, Derek, not just a player like the other guys, but Derek also as a baseball executive, as a team owner. Derek Jeter is a captain on and off the field and in the business world too. Derek knows how the front office works. The other guys do too, but not like Derek does, because Derek had his hand in it. He has money into it. And so there's a lot more into it, folks. And so all of this yammering about, well, the Yankees are doing this, Yankees did that, whatever. Look, consider the source of where the content is coming from. Just like me, consider the source. I'm a former ball player too. But remember, I never ran a team like Derek Jeter did. I didn't do what any of those guys did. I never won a World Series like some of these guys did. But what I can tell you are baseball mechanics are baseball mechanics. If you want to complain about Derek Jeter, you better look in the mirror first. If you want to complain about Aaron Judge, you better look in the mirror first, because these guys are professionals. And leave it as that. Back with college football in just a few minutes here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100.
35, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, again 714-948-0100,
or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right. Nice round of applause for them. They've been with us since the very beginning, way back in the day. About 8 years ago. All right, welcome in, everybody, on TV and radio. Big hello to our friends over in Atlanta on WDJY 99.1 FM. Over in Auburn, Alabama, that would be WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. Come on, War Eagle, what are we doing here in football? Also, a big welcome into our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, who we talked about in the last segment. Home of the 49ers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. So also a big welcome into everybody else on all of our other independent affiliates, everybody else carrying the content, everybody airing it on television, as well as on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Folks, make sure you check that out, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, college football. And, you know, the questionable rankings continue week in and week out. And you scratch your head with some of these. And you say, okay, number one, I get it. Oregon belongs in the number one slot. Yes, they're 8-0. They're, well, one of only a couple of teams that are 8-0, maybe a few teams that are 8-0. And Indiana is one of those teams, and so is Brigham Young. We'll get to them in a minute. Oregon holding on to that lead in they are the unanimous number one. I mean, frankly, they're 100 points higher, thereabouts, over Georgia, who is number two, but Oregon with a very, very easy win at a very good Illinois team over in Champaign-Urbana, 38-9. Oregon's got Cakewalk City with Michigan State up next. Number two is Georgia, as I mentioned, at 6-1. Yet there are two 8-0 teams behind them. We'll get to them again. Actually, there are three of them in just a few moments. Georgia with the win against Texas. Their next game, of course, is against Florida in that border war that's usually played down at the Gator Bowl. And it doesn't matter what the records are. Throw those records out the window because that's one of those games that anything could happen. Here's another one. Penn State, number 3, with an easy win against Wisconsin. They double them up. They play Ohio State in the next game. And, of course, Ohio State is number 4 at 6-1. And yes, ahead of a few of those undefeated 8-0 teams. Miami is one of those 8-0 teams. They beat up on Florida State in Tallahassee, 36-14, and they faced Duke, a very good defensive Duke squad. Don't underestimate those guys. At 6-2, this is a pretty good Duke squad, although looks like Miami will probably get the win. Texas drops down one slot in their loss to Vanderbilt, a very much improved Vanderbilt team. Mind you, Vanderbilt is the same team that beat Alabama. They also beat a very good Kentucky team. So Texas drops one slot despite the win, 27-24, and it was a very shaky win at that. And so we'll see what happens with them. Number 7, Tennessee, remains unchanged with their win at Alabama. Yes, and it remains they remain unchanged. How did they not leapfrog Texas? I'll never know. And they play Kentucky next week. That is Tennessee. So it's Rocky Top in Kentucky. A border war there, a very good one. Notre Dame jumps up 4 slots to number 8 with their win over the Naval Academy. Next up is Florida State for Notre Dame. Another one of those 8-0 teams is Brigham Young, a very, very good defensive squad. Despite giving up 24 to Central Florida, an easy win 37-24 over them in the number 9 position. They have Utah next at Utah. Now, That is, of course, a very, very closely heated, contested game between those two every year, so you never know what's going to happen there. Texas A&M jumps up 4 slots with their win at Death Valley and beat LSU 38-23. What is happening with that LSU squad? Oh, I can tell you what's happening. Brian Kelly's down there. He couldn't lead Notre Dame. So therefore, he went down to LSU, took a big payroll increase, only to have LSU at mediocrity. Up next for Texas A&M is South Carolina. Clemson at number 11. We're going to get to Dabo Swinney in a minute here. They dropped 2 slots despite their win at Virginia, 48-31. Up next is Louisville. Iowa State, despite their win. Yeah, despite their win. They drop a slot to number 11 as an undefeated squad, 7-0. And they beat Central Florida at Central Florida. Up next is Texas Tech. That ought to be a track meet. Here's Indiana. Indiana, and look, again, I went to a rival university, and I'm rooting for these guys. These guys are good. Indiana is 8-0. They remain unchanged at number 13 with their win 31-17 against Washington. And by the way, they played their backup quarterback in that game too. Up next, looks like Michigan State. Alabama, number 14, jumps up 1 slot with their destruction of Missouri, which is remarkably shocking. That was at Missouri. Not really sure how that one happened because Missouri is a very good squad, but boy, they fell asleep at the wheel there. Boise State goes up 2 slots with their win against UNLV, 29-24, and that was in Las Vegas, I believe. As a matter of fact, up next for Boise State and Ashton Jeanty, who is the Heisman candidate for, well, at least this part of the season. He is the leader for the Heisman voting so far, or the odds are in his favor, according to, of course, the sports books here in Las Vegas. So up next for Boise State, again, is San Diego State. Number 16, LSU, they dropped down 8 slots from number 8 to number 16 with that loss to Texas A&M at home. Up next for LSU, doesn't get any easier, it's Alabama. Kansas State, a very good squad, was in a very tough interstate game. They beat rival Kansas 29-27 over in Lawrence, and they are 7-1, number 17, Kansas State Wildcats. Up next is Houston, the Cougars, and that will be at Houston. Number 18, Pittsburgh, moves on to 7-0 with their win at Syracuse, and it wasn't even close, 41-13. Up next, SMU for Pitt. Number 19, Ole Miss, drops a slot despite their win at Oklahoma. They're at 6-2. They have Arkansas next. Number 20, SMU jumps up 2 with their SMU jumps up 2 slots with their win against Duke 28-27 in a barn burner. Up next is Pitt. Army jumps up 2 from number 23 to number 21 with their win against East Carolina. Washington State remains unchanged at number 22 with their win against San Diego State. Colorado at number 23 remains unchanged with their win at Cincinnati. Illinois drops 4 slots, losing to number 1 Oregon. And Missouri, rounding out the top 25, drops 4 slots with that drudging by Alabama at home. Now, speaking of Dabo Swinney, I'm going to get to the bowl projections in a minute here. But Dabo Swinney, I mentioned earlier, he wants to see a 5-year eligibility rule come to college football. And you know what? I'm okay with that. In fact, Dabo Swinney wants that 5-year strict eligibility rule to come to college football, and he says he loves the NCAA redshirt rule by which players can participate in 4 games or less to maintain their redshirt status and play in postseason games without it counting towards the allotted contest in a season. Still, he thinks the rule has caused, quote, unintended consequences, close quote, including players who would play in 4 games, redshirt, and opt out to retain their eligibility with plans to enter that blasted transfer portal. Now, to resolve this, he wishes college football caps players' participation to a 5-year limit to get rid of redshirting for the purposes of preserving a season of eligibility. And he says, quote, that would really clean things up for everyone. I think it would stop all the opt-outs too. And if you just went to 5 years, guys would play. So know that keeps your roster a little bit more intact to finish the season, close quote. Now, Dabo his change would make the number of games a player participate in not to factor into a redshirt decision. And he added it would cut down on the number of players who had prolonged their careers in college football. We've seen 6-year players, 7-year players, I guess. I don't know. And he said his change would be crucial next year when football scholarship rosters increase from 85 to 105 following the NCAA settlement in 3 antitrust cases. And roster size will be capped at 105, which will be a reduction from 120, including walk-ons. And Dabo says that teams can't add players to the roster if the redshirt and opt-out, and argued his change would maintain teams' roster depths. That's a pretty good point. And of course, an exception to Sweeney's rule would be a medical redshirt, which I think is reasonable. And he said, quote, I just think 5 years would clean it up. Maybe you get one medical opportunity. In that way, at least you can manage the roster and everyone can play. Kids don't feel like they've got to leave or stop playing, close quote. That's a very good statement by Dabo Swinney. As a matter of fact, that was reported on by USA Today Network. We're going to go ahead and give them a little bit of love for that one. And also on the Greenville News. All right, back here in a few moments on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on air that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or debts or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which are our podcasts. No, we don't do a podcast. It just happens that our recorded shows in their entirety are stored on Apple, Audible, Amazon, Spotify, iHeart, Deezer, Stitcher, you name it. We're there. You can't get away from us. Pandora. Anyway, make sure you check out all those 2,000 plus episodes of the Sports Circus. Lots of great special guests. Had a great special guest. In fact, it was yesterday with the great Gino Leonardo from the band Filter. Of course, that was a Phil Heyman Nice Shot song that you hear at damn near every sporting event. Yeah, and he was the lead guitarist for Filter and also an incredible music composer and producer, works on a lot of films. And we have the great Chris Pacelli from Al's #1 Italian Beef over in Chicago's Little Italy. He always gets a nice round of applause. That show is a lot of fun, folks. In case you missed yesterday's show, go to those pages and you can hear the show in its entirety, and you can actually watch it on Facebook on Chicago Food Favorites as well. So make sure you check that out. Lots of fun. Anyway, also, while you're at thesportscircus.com, make sure you check out the partners. As I mentioned, one of those is Al's #1 Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's #1 Italian Beef. Check them out also at alsbeef.com if you're not local in town there. Boy, the food is fantastic, and I'll tell you what, they are the creators of that famed sandwich that originated in Chicago. Check them out again at alsbeef.com. All right, I'm talking about discipline. You know, in this last segment, in the first segment, the discipline, in my opinion, should have been against the media. The next one, maybe against some of the coaches, maybe some of the players. I don't know. But guess what? Here we go. It seems like the same institutions are involved in some kind of a fracas on a regular basis. Well, that could be once a year. It could be once a month. I don't know. But why is it that whenever Michigan State is brought up, it appears or it seems to be there's some kind of a discipline issue, or there's chaos within the athletic department or this department or that department? I don't know what the hell's going on over there in East Lansing. But I have to tell you, it seems as though, and this is my opinion, and I can state that, it seems as though it's some kind of controversy or chaos that happens there more frequently than most any other institution, especially in the Big Ten, which I'm a member. I'm an alum of a Big Ten university, and I don't ever see my institution where I went to, or many of the others, with controversies around them. It's just maddening to imagine. Why is it that Michigan State is always in the middle? And guess what? And the Big Ten, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to punish them. Now the Big Ten won't even issue discipline for post-game scuffle. Yes, a post-game scuffle between Michigan and Michigan State. Now remember, confrontation came 2 years after the infamous fight in Michigan Stadium Tunnel. So the Big Ten has decided not to discipline anyone from the scuffle that broke out at the end of the Michigan win over Michigan State in their last game. In fact, the confrontation happened as Michigan was kneeling to basically run the clock out at the end of this game, and it was 24-17 Michigan. But Michigan State defensive lineman Anthony Jones and Michigan tight end Colston Loveland got into it after the quarterback Davis Warren took a knee. And then numerous players on the Michigan sideline immediately rushed onto the field, probably to help Loveland from the, in my opinion, thug Michigan State Spartans. And so in a statement issued, the Big Ten said that it was inconclusive to determine if any player should be punished, and that it appreciated efforts by some of those involved to break up the scrum. Shut up. It's ridiculous. In fact, the Big Ten statement goes something like this. Quote, the Big Ten Conference thoroughly reviewed the video of the incident that occurred at the conclusion of Saturday's Michigan State football game. Amidst the confrontation, student athletes from both teams were on the ground and surrounded by so many individuals that both players were completely obscured from view. And the video review was inconclusive as to whether individual discipline was appropriate for anyone in the immediate vicinity of the two players who were on the ground. While the confrontation was a disappointing conclusion to the contest, the conference appreciates the efforts made by staff from both teams, security personnel, and game officials to rapidly de-escalate the incident, as well as the response by both head coaches. The Big Ten discusses the situation with both institutions and determined that no further action will be taken, close quote. That's right. Let's just keep making excuses for those guys in green. Let's just keep giving them a pass, seemingly, on everything that happens within that institution or that's involved with that institution, and I would love to know why. Nonetheless, Michigan State had asked for the conference to review the scuffle, which saw at least one Michigan State player get pulled to the ground. And of course, Michigan head coach Sharon Moore said after the game, quote, "I told the team it was unacceptable regardless of what happened and how it was started," close quote. And of course, the tight end Loveland admitted that he got carried away with his actions. In fact, he said, quote, "I kind of got carried away out there at the end. We were just talking back and forth, kind of doing some shoving and stuff. That's how rivalry gets. Just the heat of the moment. Coming off 2 losses. Really needed this win. So just kind of got excited." Close quote. So the skirmish happened 2 years after 8 Michigan State players were suspended and 7 were criminally charged for their role in a post-game fight in the tunnel at Michigan Stadium. In fact, Michigan State players had gone after 2 Michigan players. That confrontation included kicks, punches, and a helmet throw. That's right. That's Michigan State. Changes were made to the tunnel protocols after that game to ensure that both teams are not in the tunnel at the same time. And in fact, recently Michigan State head coach Jonathan Smith said that the team was not going to forget what happened on Saturday. And he says, quote, "We will not forget Saturday night. I promise you that. Okay?" Close quote. Now that's supposed to be leadership. This is leadership for a Big Ten university. And honestly, I don't give a damn what conference it is. A leader doesn't say stuff like that. A manager doesn't say stuff like that. A coach doesn't say stuff like that. An owner, a team owner doesn't say stuff like that. I mean, look, the whole thing is completely unacceptable in the same way that, in my opinion, I see that the league, being the Big Ten Conference, seems to be making concessions for Ohio State over and over and over. As if the college football playoff, the money, everybody wants Ohio State in there. And they make excuses for them, seemingly left, right, and center. And I don't really understand why they get all the love. Oh, maybe it's because of their enormous recruiting budget. It's the largest in the country, folks. If you don't know, you better search for it. Google it. Do whatever you got to do. In fact, don't Google. Do DuckDuckGo. It's a little bit safer, in my opinion. Nonetheless, and there are people saying, well, you know, Ryan Day is this, and what concerned me is Ryan Day, and I'm starting to ask questions, and who we think he is as a football coach, and all this other crap. That was from CBS Sports. Damian Harris had said that on CBS. And look, it doesn't matter. And they say, well, he loses the big games that he's supposed to win and all this other crap. And he's supposed to boat race and run teams out of the building, and it's always a close game like the Nebraska game. So what this guy, Damian Harris, may be implying, I don't know, I'm not him, but what he may be implying that the Ohio State coaches playing the money game, so to say, which way the money wants them to go and this, that, and the other. And look, a CBS Sports broadcaster has no business, in my opinion, stating anything like that. Their job is to do what? Call the damn game, not interject your opinion. You're there to impartially call the game. That is part of the idea of responsible reporting. And for this individual to call out the coach and the way and the manner in which he said, quote, "What's concerning me is Ryan Day, and I'm starting to question is he who we think he is as a head football coach? He loses the big games and is supposed to win, and then the games he's supposed to boat race and run teams out of the building, it's always close games like that, the Nebraska games. The product of what we're seeing from Ohio State this season, that we're seeing from this Ohio State football team, is that a product of Ryan Day not being the head coach we think he is. You are supposed to be a premier team in college football, and from coaching to playing to the rushing attack, they're just not living up to the expectations we had. Is this a Ryan Day problem? Is this a talent problem? What's going on? And that's by Damian Harris of CBS Sports. Does Damian have a right to say that? Maybe so, but does Damian have to put it the way he did? I think that is slanderous. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, this segment is brought to you in part by not only the Sports Circus, but also it's brought to you in part by the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Once again, folks, make sure you tune into the Sports Circus upcoming because we're going to feature some of their coaches on this show. That is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Again, you can check them out at csncoyotes.com, of course, for all their upcoming games and events and so forth. But that's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics right here in the Las Vegas Valley, in my opinion, the best school in Southern Nevada. All right. Welcome back to everybody. You know you are. TV, radio. How about this? Is it a little or too early for this, these bowl projections? We're not going to go through a bunch of them. You know why? Because there aren't a bunch of them yet, because the money hasn't decided the 12 teams. Well, actually, I think they've decided a couple of them. I think they've decided on Ohio State for sure as being one of those 12 teams. They've got to have them in there, of course, because all the money, as we mentioned in the last segment. Nonetheless, how about some games that, well, people watch because the bowl games have started? You know, where will they play and this kind of thing? How about this? How about the Colorado State football team hasn't yet reached bowl eligibility for this season yet, but at 5-3 are a win away from it to go with 4 games remaining. And, of course, 3 of their final 4 opponents have losing records. So the Rams not only should reach bowl eligibility, but a scheduling gift from the Mountain West makes a conference title just, well, let's put it this way. It makes it a possibility because they really don't have a whole lot of teams to play that are difficult. So let's look at some of these bowl games. And, of course, here are the national projections, according to Yahoo, following Week 9 of college football for where the Rams may play this postseason. And the first one, of course, how about Christmas in Hawaii? What do you think about that? Hey, got to tell you, there are worse places to be. And the Hawaii Bowl is a popular pick right now. And the game is, well, December 24th. So that means on Christmas Day, they may get an extra day to spend over there in Honolulu. And that's a great place to be. Doesn't matter what time of the year. And so, of course, there are certain people and certain organizations that we're not going to credit because, well, they don't pay us anything. And frankly, we don't recognize them. But these particular people and institutions, or organizations, I should say, have the Rams set to play Tulane with the Green Wave an 11-point favorite. Amazing that they can already call a point spread and a potential opponent for Colorado State months before this game would potentially even be played. We'll say about 2 months. Anyway, so even the 4-letter network bowl prognosticators have Colorado State in the Hawaii Bowl, and both have them facing off against Western Kentucky, and they are the Hilltoppers. And Western Kentucky shows up in bowl games. Folks, if you don't know who they are, you better read about them because those guys are pretty damn good. How about the Idaho Potato Bowl? Back to the blue, right? The Idaho Potato Bowl is December 23rd in Boise. And CBS Sports has Colorado State facing the Bobcats of Ohio on the blue turf. And, of course, that other organization I mentioned but will not name also has Colorado State in Boise with the Rams set to play Western Michigan. Either way, Colorado State played in the 2016 Bowl. A 61-50 loss to Idaho was the result of that game. That's 111 points, folks. That's crazy. All right, now, another possibility is for Colorado State to play in the New Mexico Bowl in Albuquerque, where they might draw a crowd of, 500. And, of course, College Football News projects the Rams to face Texas State, a pretty good Texas State squad, in what would be Colorado State's 4th New Mexico Bowl appearance. Well, is that not the epitome of mediocrity? I don't know. And the other projection they have for them would be the First Responder Bowl. And that's 247 Sports projects the Rams to face Toledo, the Rockets, in the First Responder Bowl on January 3rd in Dallas. And I'll tell you what, Toledo is no joke. Man, those guys can play. That Rocket name is earned. Those guys are good. So, we're going to give it up to them. And we'll see where that whole thing plays out. All right, speaking of which, how about this? Let's shift over to the NFL. Quick story. How about Nick Bosa and a post-game HAP message that allegedly violated plain language of NFL rules. Give me a damn break. This is stupid. Now, after the Cowboys lost to the 49ers, NBC was interviewing a trio of 49ers teammate Nick Bosa showed up briefly wearing a hat and pointing to it because it was white with gold lettering, not the usual red and white lettering. The message wasn't obvious at first, and it said, quote, "Make America great again," close quotes. What the hell is wrong with making your country great? There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't have any love for your country, what the hell are you doing here in the first place? There's nothing wrong with those words. Nothing. Come on. Now, of course, that's my opinion. I don't see anything wrong with that. Who wants to live in a place that's not great? Nonetheless, regardless of which candidate in the upcoming presidential election, any hat worn by Bosa or anyone else would have been worn before, during, or after the game. It's a clear violation of the rule book. Whatever. Yeah, but if it was the other team, they would have said, oh, we didn't see anything. Anyway, as flagged by SF Gate, the plain language of Rule 5, Article 4, Section 8 applies to post-game messages from players, and it says, quote, "Throughout the period on game day that a player is visible to the stadium and television audience, including pregame warm-ups, in the bench area, and during post-game interviews in the locker room or on the field, players are prohibited from wearing, displaying, or otherwise conveying personal messages either in writing or illustration unless such messages had been approved in advance by the league office, and the league will not grant permission for any club or player to wear, display, or otherwise convey messages through helmets, decals, armband, jersey patches, mouthpieces, or other items affixed to the game uniforms or equipment which relates to political activities or causes, other non-football events, causes or campaigns, or charities or charitable causes or campaigns," close quote. Simon asked the league if Bosa violated the league rule, but he had not gotten a response, and we've asked the league also. That's a nonpartisan question, according to Yahoo Sports. If the message supported Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or other candidates for any other office, the rule would still be broken. During his post-game press conference, Bosa decided and declined to elaborate on the situation, saying, quote, "I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I think it's an important time," close quote. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Now, it wouldn't have been a violation of the rules for him to explain why he thinks it's an important time and why he believes it's important to support the candidate he chose to support. He would have been fully within the rules to do it. Now, that's interesting. Just as a former 49ers quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, acted fully within the NFL rules somehow when he chose to kneel during the national anthem as a form of protest. Yeah, but what about all the other crap that he wore on his socks and this and that? It seemed to me that he sure violated a whole bunch of rules, but then again, that's my opinion, and I'm certainly entitled to it. And of course, it'll be interesting to see what the league does, because even if the league applies the rules as written, someone will undoubtedly twist it into the league being run by a particular group or whatnot who are trying to silence players and, of course, infringe upon First Amendment rights, which is exactly what one party is trying to do in the first place. You know who you are. They gave Colin Kaepernick a pass for breaking a bunch of rules. How come they just can't let this be? Why can't they let it alone? In the same way, here you have John Jones in the MMA world. He reached an agreement to dismiss a misdemeanor charge in the UFC drug testing agent assault case. Oh, yeah. So, yes, it's not even, these guys aren't even immune to anything either. John Jones has one less distraction to deal with ahead of his UFC 309 return, and the reigning UFC heavyweight champion reached a plea adjudication diversion. Oh, yeah. That agreement to dismiss two misdemeanor charges he faced stemming from an alleged March 30th incident with two UFC anti-doping representatives at Jones's Albuquerque home. And the agreement approved by Judge Asra Elliott allowed Jones to drop both charges, assault and interference with communications, as long as Jones undergoes 4 hours of anger management courses and avoids further legal troubles for 90 days. And there it is. There's the long arm of the law extending its hand into sports once again. Maybe they should do that when it comes to payoffs and gambling. No, that's right, because they may be in on it. You never know. Anyway, Jones was present virtually for the hearing alongside his attorney. And Jones is 37 years of age, released on the following statement after the hearing. He says, quote, "I would like to extend many thanks to the justice system for reaching a prompt resolution of the matter, which affirmed my innocence and enables me to maintain my focus on the upcoming fight." And he goes on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and shut that one down after that because, look, we all know that these are political type of statements anyway. Jones was accused of charges by drug testing agent Crystal Martinez of Drug Free Sports International following an alleged altercation back in March. Martinez claimed that Jones threatened her, allegedly stole her phone, and began recording her during an attempt to collect a urine sample. In fact, Martinez told police that Jones smelled of alcohol and allegedly confronted her, stating, quote, "Why you beep in people come so early? Do you know what happens to people who come to my house? They end up dead," close quote. Now, Martinez told police that the incident left her feeling, quote, "terrified," close quote. So Jones subsequently acknowledged that he did swear at Martinez and her partner, but claimed he later apologized. And he also denied stealing Martinez's phone and posted security camera footage from his home appearing to show him high-five the agent upon their exit from the property. Well, that's kind of interesting. So here we have now the manipulation potentially of video. I don't know, folks. There is so much editing that can be done to make things look a particular way, just like when you get a message from somebody in the media. Well, they can make it sound like this or make it read like this, but they're only going to give a partial quote or they'll give you a soundbite. That's why whenever you're listening to somebody and you want the real, listen to them live in their entirety, uncut. Then you'll get the real message that person sent. Otherwise, you're just going to get a soundbite. This is what the news plays, and this is the BS that they disseminate to the people, which sometimes is a lack of responsible reporting. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.